Everyone, and welcome to this edition of AI Publish and Response Live, or as we like to call it, A Live. And just obviously, what we are trying to do is talk about all things AI as it relates to publishing. I've got a good topic today that I'm going to dive into and just really try to work the problems of what it's going to take, and really kind of maybe a aspect of like when we use the word automation versus when we use the word AI. But a couple things before I dive into that. Um, just so everyone's aware, we do now actually have a Slack up for publisher AI strategists. So if publishing is a part of your remit, to again, either that be external, how are you handling things in terms of the LLMs and so forth, to actually automation internally, and really being focused on AI. We just want to make sure to kind of elevate that. And that, by the way, works for both revenue and editorial. So really, we're thinking about it this way because there's so much that actually a publisher has to align and so forth. Joining me is Dennis. Dennis, I don't know if you turned off your camera, you're working through things or whatever, but come on up here.
I'm good. Technical difficulties
Yeah,
are gone.
all good. Excellent. Awesome. And Dennis is one of our co-hosts of this particular podcast. We might have a couple other people. And by the way that we wanted to run this is as people have questions or comments, by all means, put them in the chat, raise your hand, make sure we're aware of you. And we might even have you come up and join us. We definitely want as many voices and to hear things, especially today, because I'm going to be throwing some stuff out. It's not like I prepped Dennis and said, "Here's all the things I'm going to say." So we're gonna fly a little bit with that. But I also feel like this is the style that I want. Instead of just having a podcast of just broadcasting out, we want to pull the community together to talk through these things, and get as many voices as we can. The session we did last with Amanda, was phenomenal. Someone from the brand side thinking about all that was really, really good. Um, we're working on when the next one will be. San Antonio is 2 weeks from now, so that Friday would be a little bit of a tough turnaround, possible, if I get the right guests or people suggest particular topics. But other than that, I'm going to dive right in. And again, I know Dennis, this is like I'm walking right in your wheelhouse here
Mhm.
from all of your experience, with all this stuff. So the way I wanted to frame this, is I do want to sit there and make kind of a point up front about automation versus AI, and that they have their place. And going to continue to come back to that, like if we find ourselves astray or trying to think about those pieces. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is just the overall publisher sales cycle from, I mean, everyone has their own version of this, from quote to cash to lead to cash, or everyone's got like a cool couple different variations of that. Dennis, do you have like one? Do you have
Pitch to cash.
pitch to cash? There you go. Right. So like that whole process, okay, which let's just be clear, really should be about automation and just getting that to be as efficient as possible.
I think there's two. I think AI has a place there in agents, but
Sure.
agree somewhat.
Well, that's the part I want to like find the line, right? Because I think that
Yeah.
I agree. Like again, it isn't one or the other here, but there is this aspect
Mhm.
of how people like want to throw things. But the as I've been thinking about automation and thinking about all the places within the workflow, um, that I kind of feel like the RFP process and I'm going to expand that just a little bit to like what I'll just call sales intelligence. Like
Mhm.
that part, probably one of the trickiest pieces of the whole thing. My recommendation is that's where people should be focusing their energy. Highest opportunity for return in the short term and the long term. Not dismissing reports, not dismissing financial, even ops, ad trafficking, or whatever. But like this is like I think going to be kind of the heart of it that I think that everyone should focus on. And if anyone wants to challenge me on that, I would love to hear. Um, but that's kind of how I'm thinking of this. you know.
Mhm.
Um, so with that in mind, you know, I want to start by just talking a little bit about more of a direct sales, we'll say IO based direct sales. We could get into programmatic as a part of that. I then kind of want to talk about programmatic into direct, like how what programmatic can tell you that you could turn into direct deals. It's been done. I've done it. Okay, maybe a number of times in my hand, but I've done it. It
Mhm.
can work.
Yeah.
Programmatic to programmatic, like in other words, how do you optimize potential in that area? I don't know that I'm going to spend as much time on that, but if again the audience has things that they want to talk about with that, let's bring it up. And I think that all leads to ad CP in the future and just kind of preparing for it and then kind of what systems and so forth. So
Mhm.
that's to me the thread, but like, you know, Dennis, you and I can have a conversation about this, some of the things that
Mhm.
you've done, some of the things that you've seen, want to kind of get into that. But I also just going to highly recommend that really anyone that's on the call that's listening in, you've got opinions, join us up here, use the chat, raise the points, use the Q&A, give us some material to kind of work with and stuff like that. So a lot of setup for that. Dennis, I'm going to kind of throw it to you. I know again that
Mhm.
this is something that you've been focused on and so forth.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about when you're working and talking to an organization, and it's like this particular piece, direct sold,
Mhm.
trying to create automation, trying to create efficiency, trying to get more data out of it and stuff like that. What are some of the things that people need to be thinking about? What have you observed? What have you seen? What
Mhm.
works? You take it where you want to go.
Yeah. I think the key is to understanding your process first, right? And making sure the data is stable and the information is coming through, has the right location. Then you can focus on, for me, like the first wave is automation. Take a plan that comes in, right? You want to be able to, ingest a agency plan, a Prisma plan, your unique template, a PDF. God knows how many different ways you get that IO, right, come in. So you want to use automation to structure how you represent, that plan in your interface, right? You want it to look exactly like it, but monitor in your kind of system. Then you also want to use AI as a layer on top of that to understand what products are being used or even having to add those products at that point, right? This is where
Right.
people are spending times in spreadsheets. They're spending times on phone calls, looking in different platforms to get all that information, right? You want it to be, it doesn't matter if it's coming from different places. You want it in one spot where you can work on it and activate things, right? And
Yeah.
and AI comes in for that, like recommending products, like telling you, this is a package, even though according to the agency IO, it doesn't look like a package. This requires 7 lines in my system, right? All that logic is what you use AI for. And then you layer on agents as the third wave to kind of do that processing autonomously and then work. It's a lot of work, but that is the foundation of
Right.
your
Right.
business, right? Because then the creative comes, then the trafficking comes, the optimization, the reporting, the pacing, troubleshooting. That's the foundation, right? I think
And
the only thing as important to that is when sales are putting in opportunities and deals, like helping them automate that or use AI to kind of do that work for them while they're on the street paving the pavement, right?
yeah.
They did garbage in, garbage out, right? It starts there, and then when it gets to RFP and planning, is being able to do that in one platform, and that's the work I've been focused on
Really.
for a while now.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah. It's you've heard me make this same kind of joke, right? Like everyone wants to be a data-driven company and then they turn to sales and go, let's put all the information in. And you're like, what's the what? Like, why do people go into sales to not do that work? Right? Like just like understand what you're getting
Yeah.
into. But that to me again is like something that, and again, keep in mind that some of the reasons that I dive in deeper on some of this stuff has been just like for publishers to really survive and thrive in what I believe is going to happen to our overall industry. Like there's certain areas of excellence,
Mhm.
right? And there's a piece right here where you really want to know what people want to buy from you.
Yes.
And the more you can map that and take that rigor and take that time, your ability to lower the cost of doing business comes with it, but
Mhm.
also just that journey of figuring that out, right? To your point about a package versus not a package. Like you want something saying, you realize with every RFP that
Yeah.
comes in, they're asking for X and you are saying Y.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's a sales management conversation that
Yeah.
may
Or
not
X
happen
is
if no
stale,
one's looking. Right.
right? Or X to X is stale, right? That's
Yeah.
that's why you automate and free up the time. You don't replace your people, you enhance them, right? By
Right.
giving them the tools with AI to be like to score deals, which I think is the next piece. Once you tackle that, the automation, kind of what the products are, then it's like score the deal. Um, this category is losing margins. Why? Right? Like this
Right.
pacing is struggling here. Why? Right? All those things become possible.
Yeah. And it ties to, I mean, if you remember the first one of these, Messer brought up like less about the content and more about intellectual property.
Mhm.
Kind of, I'll just add that like all of this of how you operate and your relationship with your clients, what you sell, what they buy, that's actually intellectual property. Like
Mhm.
if you start to frame it in a whole, like again, that's not like an operations way of thinking about this, right? But there's like this other layer on top of it of going like, and I'll just riff off that real quickly. So Amanda Sabrand, she was again our guest last time. She did a thing called her War Room last night. So she's got a, I highly recommend subscribe to her thing, join the calls, and there's a little bit of like her going through like how do you know what your clients want or whatever. And she made this one point last night that I've been thinking about since, which is the actual words that the people use when they talk about why they buy from you or how they perceive you are like super important. You don't just gen AI that stuff, right?
No.
You got to like look at the words. um think about it this way. Someone described going to Beeler.Tech's base camp as hard. Okay, and it was like, excuse me, what do you mean? And their point was like, it's not a lean back event; it's a lean in event. So you'll
Mhm.
be exhausted by the end of it. You get there, and you don't want to not be a part of all the conversations, right? Like, so I could easily spin that into marketing speak and kind of lose the point.
Mhm.
But they were very clear about that, and I think the same thing goes for like why would anyone do again like why would anyone do direct sales? Like why would anyone buy from you directly?
Because there's magic in people and relationships and being able to transcribe what they want across your pages and your sections, build a program around that. All those things should start mattering more, not less.
That's
Right
right.
now that you have the tools, like a lot of times publishers want to do that, but they spend 90% of the time putting everything together. That they don't have the time to really do that, right? So
Right.
you got to
Right.
look at all these functions and all the things, that I'm trying to build that people are building as giving back that valuable time so that they can do that, right? Because
And there's
AI
yeah.
won't replace that. AI, it's not going to replace the human soul, the magic, the connection, right? And give people more time to do that.
I mean, sales when it's done is an art to it,
Mhm.
right? And even product creation and product, all of that fit is there's a little bit of an art to it,
Mhm.
that would make you stand out versus others.
Exactly.
Um, Again, you want to be as automated as you possibly can,
Mhm.
but you have to keep that. I think you and I are always going to keep coming back to like keeping the soul of what you do,
Yeah.
because otherwise, who are you? Like, what are you competing with?
Yeah.
Like,
Like
you can
the
out
goal is to
AI,
cut
yeah,
down the 27 steps it takes to get something live to 5, and then have the 6th step be everybody evaluating everything, having the time to not just optimize towards delivery like we all
yeah.
did and do, right? Like look at performance, look at deal structure. We sell the same thing to the same clients a lot of times over and over again, and then have meetings wondering why budgets are decreasing, performance is going
Hmm.
down, but we don't have enough time to really work on it, right? Like,
Yeah.
so like this, a lot of this, that's how we should be looking at it as it. as a tool to give us back valuable time.
Yeah, I think that that's right. And then I think the other part of AI as assistant is, and this is something I'll be candid that I'm struggling a little bit. You kind of hinted at it before. It's like something comes through Prisma, something comes through this. Well, a lot of things come through email,
Yeah.
and it is trying to figure out how to inject into that process to pull again the non untangibles as things start
It's
to be
so hard.
created. I want all that. I don't like. I'm sitting there going I'm trying to figure out like, like, do I just read the last email? Can I like maybe start there and then I'll work up the chain? But there is a piece of this that like it's such, to your point, it's relationship driven stuff. And so
Mhm.
as you know, something comes through like yeah, let's go with five. Five
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
Five what?
yeah.
But the
That's
two
why,
people,
like, you got
yeah,
to focus on building stuff around that, right? Like email sucks, right? Build a plugin that has an agent that is scanning for advertising, words and things like client names spelled wrong, or new
right.
person, new agency, some of that stuff, right? Let the salesperson work in the deal, because I've spent almost a year processing, that information for someone just to understand it, right? And at the end being like, maybe we should do something else, or form, or organize it, in a different way. But
Yeah,
there are ways around that, but it's true. It's like the whole process is a bit cloudy, because it's not standard. We're selling, attention, we're selling eyeballs, we're selling creative and performance. Those things are hard to put on paper, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. And so that and but to me, there's a discipline there that we all have to figure out. Um, you have to again build for those that messiness of the data,
Yeah.
but just sit there and get that translated as quickly into something that you can
Mhm.
automate. And you know, again, the only advice there is to kind of go through the process
Yeah.
because it's going to kind of be cultural. It's going to be your salespeople. I think you remember I used to work for AL.com, AlabamaLive.com.
Mhm.
Their contracts are a little different than the New Jersey contracts were. I'll let
Yeah.
you all fill in the stereotypes, and they played themselves out in the way that that worked. It was kind of fun to kind of see the difference there. The other part that I think um, I know I've done with my business, and I am thinking more along the lines of hold on 1 second, we got Scott's going to be joining us, I think, here.
Yeah.
And hold on 1 second. Cool. And one of the things that I think everyone can do and can actually do it. Hey, Scott, um,
Okay.
that everyone can do pretty quickly. I mean, the tool for all the people getting like who've gone down vibe coding and gone like down the rabbit holes of not seeing it work or whatever. I'll tell you something that I have been successful with. Could be work on it, and again, next week a new thing will come out and make that obsolete or whatever. But it works today, which is especially if you have clients and you kind of kick this off in my head, Dennis, of like, if you've got clients that you're looking to retain, clients you have a relationship with some time, the ability to take your emails with that client, pop that into a document that Notebook LLM can read,
Mhm.
add other pieces, everything from their website, everything that you ever collected about them, everything you can get, do the research, do all that kind of stuff. You can chuck that stuff in there and basically create like a client advocate,
Mhm.
right? And you just create something so you could sit there and go, we got a new idea for a product,
Mhm.
right? Run it by that advocate, run it through all your advocates. Again, like the level of orchestration and all the
Yeah.
complexity, like right now I've got 20 of these. Okay. I
Mhm.
will not have 20 in the future. I'll have one and
No,
they'll
you have
be,
one, and then you'll have a center, like, interface where you could do searches where it's not tied to specific clients, right? You could look at categories, or
right.
let's say your sales, you're like Nike. What's Nike done recently? Search everywhere possible to learn about new products and offerings, and then inform your CRM. and get some information about your budgets, and then look at ways to kind of react and reach out. There's so many things you can do with that.
That's why I keep thinking of this as like seller intelligence. Like,
Yeah.
and this is something maybe like I'm getting ahead of myself here, right? But there's a part of it that right now we're all trying to look at what we do and trying to figure out where does AI or automation take
Mhm.
it to the next level. And there's almost a part of going like, again, things won't necessarily work the same way in the future when you really start to get this stuff together. And there being this aspect of, to your point, of going like, why wouldn't I have something out there just scanning, looking for people that might buy my product, bring that in, again, get as much of the process, but then there being that person who's like, I've got the relationship, let me reach out to
Yeah.
automate. Like there's any number of those
Yeah.
particular places that I think will work.
And I
Right.
think, like, we look at automation as handling what we do, what we know, right? And creating efficiency there. And then the AIs, what aren't we doing? What don't we don't not know that we're doing, right? And then the agent is the orchestration layer across everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's the key, right? You want that insight. You want that ability to be like, what am I missing? You know?
And one of the things that I'll just always come back to with this, in my opinion, is the journey. So when I started setting this up, right, and then created a report. So in the morning, I got a report. Like it went through all my newsletters, tried to find whether there was anything related to my clients that could be a relevant thing to create content or involve them with,
Yeah.
right? And you got to realize that first email I got
Oh my God, you're like,
was,
holy shit, it worked. You know?
well, it was like, wow, let's this is going to need some fine tuning, right? It's like almost everything was, it's tough being a publisher, and this company serves publishers, so therefore, what a great opportunity. You're like, okay, that was not what I, and I think that that's the part that I will always come back, that I keep learning over and over again. Um, if you want to talk about a role for the future, is requirements,
Hmm.
is like it feels so easy to type into whatever ChatGPT or whatever and go like, "Hey, build me a this," and it's like that's so cool. Not quite what I wanted,
Yeah.
right? And you wind up coming back and sit there doing it again, and
It's a
then
huge difference. Like, me building automation for my personal stuff is me writing a few paragraphs, maybe a few pages. When I'm doing requirements and I've done PRDs, they've been 78 pages, 100. That's the
right,
difference, right?
yes. Scott, want to pull you in, and again, like you figure out which lens from your history of managing and looking at these processes. You do a lot with retail commerce media companies and bouncing around stuff like that. To the part that we've gotten so far, is there anything in terms of additional spots or places that you would drill down in on?
Um, I love the idea of centralizing information, and it's not super new to have like your email scanned and scrubbed and put in, but I think what is newer is the ability to do it on a smaller scale without like larger enterprise solutions. Like if you're just like a 2 or 3 person shop or sales team, like getting a notebook LM and dumping stuff in there on a per client basis or on a bigger project basis is probably pretty doable. And then you can vibe code your way into like automatically pulling stuff in. I was recently on the sort of newer stuff of like what is cool in AI that's happening. Have you heard of a service called Connect the Dots?
Yes, I'm in.
I
Yep.
did it. It's cool. So for everyone who doesn't know, it's this neat service that I'll preface with is privacy preserving and doesn't spam everybody. And I have no stake in this. I don't know them. One of the companies that I work with brought them on, and so I got to use it. You connect your LinkedIn account and you connect your email account, emails account, so multiple ones if you want. And it scans the headers and your connections and how well you know people, and it starts to grade like your connectedness to certain people. So you can look at any company you want inside your profile and be like, how do I know? Do I know anyone there? We all get those intros of like, hey, do you know somebody at Dennis? You brought up like Nike, right? Do you know anyone at Nike? And you're like, I do, but blah blah blah. This way, you can actually like see the map of how that is, And you can look at other people's connections if you enable that, like within a company. How well do they know somebody? Because usually you're like, dude, I don't know. I added that person in 2013 in August of something, and I've never spoken one word to them. Or, oh, that's my best friend and I'm going to see him tomorrow.
Right,
You're going to get
right.
like somewhere in between those two answers. And this helps you see that. And so that's a really neat use case of like this large processing power. It's probably more machine learning than AI, I would say,
Mhm.
but it's a really neat tool. And I think we're going to see more of pulling the tribal knowledge out of brains and into machines. It doesn't sound as fun when I say it that way, but
No, and I'm gonna
That,
ponder that one. It sounds right.
that's the process. That's really the process when you're building automation and you're designing AIs, right?
that's
You're
right.
taking the mappings, the information, how it's moved, how it's processed. You're doing that. Like you have to. In order for it to work and really get adopted, it has to kind of have that
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
at its
guess
yeah,
that's right for
foundation.
automation across the board, right? That is pulling
Mhm.
the tribal knowledge out of the brains and putting it into the machines so that you can repeat it. That was
Mhm.
true with like the printing press back in the day.
yeah.
I know how to write, and now I'm going to use a letter for a machine and I'm going to tell it which letters go first and next.
There. The and the other reason that I brought up this particular part of the workflow is toward the beginning is it is actually multi-departmental. And that again is just like, I mean, everything kind of comes down to reps now, right? Like the first time you like try to put together your specs for automation, you probably skipped a few steps, right? Or
Mhm.
you learn
Yeah.
what those bigger parts are, but you also are having to get the organization kind of on like bought in. So
Mhm.
again, if you're sitting there again trying to figure out how to future proof your business, and again you have salespeople, you got to get them on board with these aspects of it. And at the same time, Dennis, you keep always making sure to say it right of like, and then the people's role will be X, right?
Mhm.
Like that, like they're again, again, I don't know how much you guys are on TikTok, but I'm on TikTok and I am told that I can make $10,000 a day if all I do is create this one little automation that will find my clients and hit them up with emails and just sit there and go like, no, like that's not like that's, if you can do it, whoever you are, whoever you could do it,
Yeah. I know who
gotta
you're
be wrong.
selling to, but that's not really gonna work.
Right? Like creating new ways to spam people is actually makes relationships even more valuable because you're somehow going to get your email or your text or whatever to actually kind of read through all that. I want to read what James had to say here. Transcribing the calls, right? Yeah, and I feel like there's a part of that like James, to your point that I said that Amanda mentioned is yes, get the summary, never lose the exact words. And I just say that because again, there's a part of it that you won't do this for every single time, but like there will be a point of going, why are we flat on this product? Or why is this client not spending more or whatever? And you really want to go back to the original words. And you actually want to really she gave a great question of like, before you started working with me, like what was it that made you like what changed and whatever, like what was the and those types of things, right? Like, and I think that those
Mhm.
are parts that help you actually get to the true KPIs that sometimes are hard to pull out from there. uh by all means, more questions, guys. If you have more points, the only thing that I was just going to kind of move on is again, like I found RFP collection. I'm still trying to figure that out within an organization because it's mostly an email, and we'll work on that.
Mhm.
Product definition is just again going to be so important to get that right. Um,
That's a
happy
tough
to.
one. That's a very tough one, right? Because I don't know, having run, shops in the past, sometimes you have so many products, people just create them because they can't find what to use. So you have that going on, or it means different things at different times of the year. So nailing that is very important. And it has to be done like detail after detail, right? And you have to go, I'll take 40%, and that's standard. I could process very simply. Then another 20%, that requires some tweaks, and kind of build towards it. You're
Right.
not going to throw AI or anything at it. It's going to be like, I'm learning and now I know everything, and here these products are better. I'm going to create them. It's like you got to go through every single like setup so
Yeah.
that you can build to that core knowledge.
And I think that is going to be jumping a little bit ahead if you start thinking about what ad CP might mean, what agentic selling means, is again like, think of it this way, like again, to kind of your point about the people who were making up products. Imagine having 1,000 of them that can do it in milliseconds,
Yeah.
make
And
shit
then
up and
not
sell
only
it.
makeup products, act on them. Right.
Yes, right, exactly. It's like
Because I'm a publisher, I'm gonna let everyone come in and just change shit for me.
we have to have a way that bots start to, again, there will be avatars and all the things and whatever, but I immediately want to go to having my agents all obviously tell me like what they look like. And you just imagine some of these sales agents are just going to be like, hey, they walk on the lot, they're going to buy, type of guy, right? And just sit there going like, which is what I want to do. I want to create, bots, made in Jersey, just
Yeah.
because I just know that we'll be much more successful at
Mhm.
getting the deal. Some broken neck. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think for publishers, like it's not just in your sales department and doing this and recording like client calls. There's a lot of value in doing this for internal meetings and things like, and this is where you really have to take stock of like what's your company culture and how do you operate. I think there's sort of a spectrum of like we have a lot of meetings and nothing gets written down. And then there's the people we have no meetings and everything gets written down. And then probably the weird one where like we have a lot of meetings and everything gets written down and shared and people read that stuff. And I've been inside all different companies. My clients work in different areas like that. Um, but using AI recordings for your meetings is great to create those summaries, to create those things, to pull out the ideas, the nuggets, to let people catch up faster. So I can't recommend something for you and say like you should be doing this, but what I should say is like you should be taking stock of your company, especially a CEO or someone who's in charge of the way it operates and asking like, could we be doing this better? And maybe like don't send AI emails to your clients, but let's record
Mm.
everything so we can do it and summarize it. Because you know how much time it takes to summarize a 1 hour meeting? 2 hours,
Yeah, that's right. And
right?
since your day is 10 hours of phone calls, that's 20 hours between the next day, 100%.
Right. And so I think there's a lot of value in doing that. And then you can put that into a repository and you can build on those things and make really easy wikis and sort of training. But that's a bigger cultural shift than it is and a slightly technological shift than it is just snapping the fingers and saying, let's be really good at this.
Yeah. I can tell you, I see a lot of conversations happening over Slack. And, there's something about when something gets typed out, some of the subtleties are lost. You shortcut it. You sometimes you don't say please when you absolutely needed a please in there. And then next thing you know, it's like, and so there's the aspect of like kind of recording sales to operations to all those pieces. Someone in the organization would get real value out of just understanding the way people talk. If y'all remember Joanna Bloor, who hopefully we're gonna get as a keynote for a future base camp, have her come back. She was telling me that there's a company that's really good at mapping emails throughout the company. So you could see who was really the decision, like who were the influencers within the company, right? It's
Sounds
kind of
fancy.
like, yeah, this goes to your manager, but it happened to go to Linda first.
Yeah.
Then it went to the manager. Just watching the flow of things, I think, again, or these are all, and while it's like taking what is our topic here of automation and whatever, but just like, who has time to do that if you were doing that manually? You would never do that. You need the tools to start to do this. And, Scott, to your point, like, you could identify culture, you have to figure out how to influence the culture. Those are the pieces that you want the receipts, so you can actually sit there and just go like, we have a sales issue, or we have an operations issue, or we have a product issue, or whatever, and truly identify it. So too few organizations ever get there, right? Because it's all putting out fires.
Mhm.
Awesome. Um, yeah, and so building off that, I was going to kind of spin toward programmatic into direct. Again, feel free if there's someplace else to go, and for anyone that's on the call that you see someplace that's uh, perhaps more insightful. I'll tell you what I've been doing recently. And again, there's no kind of trade secret to this, right? But it's pulling everything I can get out of GAM, pulling everything I can get out of pre-bid and all my partners, trade desk. There are companies like Burt has leads. I know there's other companies that have leads and stuff like that. And I really kind of throwing that together and creating a report of, here's a company that has bid, a advertiser that has bid 90% of the time on your inventory and not won once. Right. And just sitting there going like,
Mm-hmm.
that is someone that wants to do business.
Yeah.
Now, if I go direct, find a way to go direct. Or I've got to sit there and figure out how to create that kind of path and where I can kind of get there and stuff like that. And again, I feel like uh, I have been sending to salespeople for a very long time.
It's
Here's
programmatic
who's
models.
bought.
We've been
Here's the
doing
programmatic. Here's the top
it's prospecting.
10,000.
It's
Yeah.
prospecting.
Here's the top 10,000 companies that have bought from us this month, all buying 5 impressions at a $32 CPM. How come sales never does anything with that? And it goes to kind of my point before about the culture piece. The next step on this is going like, showing them what I'm capable of, saying, I'm not actually expecting you to do anything with this other than to question it. Like, why wouldn't you act on this? What is it that you don't get out of this that, was there? Because I gave you 10,000 leads before and you used none of them. All right, I'm going to give you 5. Oh, well, we can't go after this because of X. I did not know that before.
Mhm.
Easily added to it, so forth, and just sit there and try to create those kind of opportunities to sit there and find it. Plus, having a direct sales team, I don't even know that they know what I know programmatically about what they're doing. And those two things don't always align,
Yeah.
but there is a part of it of going like, you might wonder why they keep pushing down on CPM since they happen to be buying at us for X. By the way, should we maybe not like plug that hole or not? Right? All of these things become better decisions.
Yeah, no, it's difficult, right? Programmatic, it's siloed in many places, even at the CRM level, right? There are people who are having projects right now trying to get that data into a CRM, right? Then, or forget the OMS, trying to get it in there, right? But I also think that once you could tackle that and do it, you wanna not only go to sales and arm them with that, like here's prospects, but also be like maybe they bid more. We get more budget, secure more budget, right? There's more opportunities now than there were in the past, right? Like they could go that way, or your own programmatic person can do it. You know, I think that's what has to happen because it's really tough.
I
God, please.
I like this idea, and I don't think it's not new, right? I think the
Nope.
way that you might be able to do it now has changed, and there's more tools available. But I just have to say, like, it doesn't always work, right?
No.
And like
Nope.
I think that's the hardest part of this is there are just some buyers who aren't going to respond to that, and some of them are just pure DR retargeting budgets, especially if you
Mhm.
see cruise lines and telco companies, cell phone companies, like those, like where those budgets are. Um, and so my advice to the ops people surfacing this is like remove those from the list. Like find out how many of these are like real opportunities. So I think it's also interesting to look at some of the curation tools that like Adomic has like a good view of that. And I know a few others are coming out to understand what that spend is. But I can't let you guys off the hook of just saying like now that the tool is better, this is going to work. Because I think it's still as improbable as it was before. You might just get a little bit better at not spending all day looking up DSP bidder reports and brands.
100%. You framed up what I was going to say, but by doing that, made it better because then I can kind of respond to it as opposed to just kind of out of the blue.
I mean, you're having a conversation with yourself.
Yeah, I was already pre-pro. I already was having it, and you interjected perfectly.
Please continue.
But no, but here's the thing. In my mind, um, you as an organization have to figure out if you actually bend over trying to pick up pennies or not, right? And so there's two thoughts in my head, two tracks on this. So one, if you have like a minimum buy of like $500,000 to spend on your site, try to figure out how to make it 50. And if it's 50, make it 5,000 and whatever. It doesn't mean I'm not telling everyone to move to $500 deals. I'm looking at it going like operationally, I would want to be able to, if the organization decided I want to take $500 self-serve deals, that we were efficient enough to do it. That's not the barrier. So that's one direction, right? Go ahead. Like you had a reaction because I want to come back more to. That's not what Scott's point is, but like I want to.
As you know, I want to run like self-service and some of those. A lot of publishers want to take, depending on who you ask, right? Want to take every deal that comes across their table, right? They just can't because programmatic like PMPs, or like self-service still requires a ton of manual work, right? Like remove that. Like have automation build out the deals, have agents and AI monitor them, make sure they're transacting. Then it doesn't matter what your minimum is, what your threshold is. You can accept everything, and then you can start really monetizing and looking at what's worth it.
Yeah,
certain markets are better than others, like those things. But it's still back to the same problem. Folks don't have enough time because of all the numerous steps they have to take.
Oh, right.
That's what stops the deal.
Right. I always thought of it like as ops of like whether again you can outsource it or not, tells you whether you control your process. You really have control if you can actually stand up self-serve because you've literally created a level of efficiency and then you add to it. But more to Scott's point, agreed. There is a little bit of foraging that you're doing that may not produce any kind of results. And so I don't want to sit there and make that sound like that's the panacea here and that's the fix. What I will tell you, and again, like I have a work on a niche site, I can see who starts to spend programmatically right around all the tournaments, right? And we have converted people from that into becoming actual sponsors and direct and so forth because they're trying to get us on the cheap. But then you go like, what you could do and what we're capable of and so forth. And I think that there's a piece to your point about like looking at curation, looking at even the identifiers, what data you're passing, what data you're seeing, like all those things. Like this comes to something I think that we would agree on of programmatically. Like my issue with programmatic is as a organization, I do not know how I'm truly being represented at the time that I am being purchased. And the more that I can sit there and try and get and understand that, the better. So again, if I'm golf, but I'm being curated into a sports thing at a much lower CPM, that could literally be the right thing for that moment at that time. But I don't know that. Now, again, I'm getting into a bigger topic around programmatic, but I just sit there and go like, anyone, think of it this way, like if I could go this path for a second, if people are coming to my website and I don't know why, because it's just been like they came from Google, now they're not, whatever. Did I really ever have a relationship with them? Did I convert them? Did I win them over? Are they really my audience? Is traffic loss really loss, or just drive-bys or less?
Yeah, the one and
Is
done.
well, or a little bit like that's a hard. I don't. I hate that saying it that way, but that's why I say the same for advertisers. Again, most people are buying audience. So if it turns out to be a yacht person buying a yacht and they happen to be on golf, probably was never going to sell the yacht company to sell
Yeah.
the five
Or you,
impressions. But there's a lot there to just sit there and just go like and understand if you start to put time on the overall piece, but the return is not necessarily look how many programmatic deals I converted this month. If anyone gets to that level of KPI, the the podcast is yours, a conference is yours. I will give it to you.
it's a really good point. I think the shift from audience-based buying to something that is much deeper contextual buying, and signal-based buying, right? So I have many spiels about signals and how important they are, and more than ever. And there's a bunch of companies out there generating signals for you, Gamera, Jounce, Sincera
Hmm.
being some of the leaders, plus the old guard of DV, IES, and so forth. Understanding like why you're being bought gets a lot harder when it goes to just contextual, because that easy answer of like it's retargeting, silly, um, was easy. And we have cookies and we have audience, like audience when it means cookies is one thing. An audience when it means the collective group of people on my site means something else. Like golf has golf audience, and then it also has people who shop on Nike.com,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And that is the two differences. I think in curation based buying, a lot of that DR retargeting is out the window. There still is a decent amount of audience data used in curation, but it's less and less because it's not about audience data. And most of the curation traders don't have proprietary data and don't really want to start introducing it necessarily. It could be about triangulation of data signals, which is what we think the DSPs do. Like you see patterns of they kind of have these things, so we should buy people that have more of these patterns in them. But I think generally understanding why someone's buying you through curation is more about the quality of your content and the thing you're writing about and the match of their campaign and your ability to attract I don't want to use this word, a quality user, right?
Hmm.
Not a child, somebody on I don't know, in the right
Someone's got
state,
a card. Someone's got to who can put
someone
it
who's
on
got
a
a credit
card.
card, something like that. Um, and I don't think we've solved that from a publishing perspective of what is this new thing and how do we get better at selling to curators? My
Right.
only answer is make great content that is worthy of being included, have great signals so that you are included. But largely, these people are buying or selling on your behalf, and we have very little way to control whether or not we're in them.
Right. Right.
Um, and then you're like,
Which,
well, if you
yeah.
play that scenario out a little more in your head, you're like, well, how could we do that? It's kind of like going back to ad networks. Can we work with certain curation houses or SSPs, curation platforms, curation houses, um, to give them inventory that we want them to represent? Can we start creating more exclusive relationships so that you start squeezing demand through certain pipes? And everybody knows when you squeeze demand through a pipe, the CPM goes up. That is ad ops math for you.
Yes. Yep.
So when do we get to that point where you can say to a multi-local or a swim or even a chalice or a whatever, like, hey, I know you're buying, I know you're curating my site. How about we do something a little more serious? Because they're going to run out of, as inventory quality gets squeezed on the web,
Right.
which is what is happening. Garbage will always be infinite, but quality inventory is finite. And as that starts getting squeezed, these curators might start running into problems where they want exclusive inventory. And what makes them different from the next one? Because that's the same problem that happened in ad tech before. Why are you different? Why shouldn't I just buy you in the open auction? Why should I use this curator and not that curator? Okay, same stuff, different sauce. You're both selling chicken nuggets. Who cares? Um,
Can I throw out an idea to you?
yeah.
That is a point of potential leverage, not there yet or whatever, but a lot of these companies are using bots to analyze publishers. I think both you and I are on the train. We're not there yet. There's work to be done, but that if we start controlling who actually accesses our site, you can start to steer some of that conversation. I'm not doing that as, say, a threat to curators. I'm saying I can work with you, but I may not work with
You
others
can
or
control
whatever.
what's exposed. That's
Yeah.
what publishers always try to do. If that's
Yeah.
possible, then yeah.
I mean, this
Yeah.
whack-a-mole thing to it. I'm not, again, like, there's no, I'm gonna have to come up with another analogy of just this, of just like, there is no all eggs in one basket. Like, it's not even there's no basket. And what fucking eggs are we talking about here? Like, it's, you got to do all the things. And there's a piece of me that's just sitting there going, like, again, people are out there representing me as a publisher, where I don't have a relationship with them. And I feel like a relationship is due. Because if I am providing quality impressions,
Yeah, let's swing this back into AI land. Seller agents.
that's the next piece.
You're welcome. So the seller agent, right, similarly is representing you to the buy side.
Mhm.
I have a lot of questions of like, where does that seller agent live? Does the publisher own it? Does the SSP own it? Does an ad server own it? Does a vendor own it? You know, not the SSP vendor. I think
Mhm.
all those answers are technically possible. Um, but like
I,
what's best for a pub? And then what happens when you have one at the SSP and you have your own, and then your
mhm.
other SSPs start making them, and now you've got 12 representatives for you. Is it good or is it bad? We don't we
Dennis,
won't
I
be able
know.
to answer that until we know later, but that's a good question. And like how much will you want to control it? And like is one smarter than the other?
Mhm.
And
Right.
is one, Rob on the lot being like, hey, the guy buys? Or is the other one Dennis, where, it's like, hey, guys, let's have a really nice meeting today and we're gonna figure out a way to make a partnership. I don't know what, like,
Yeah, it's way too early to decide which lane, but it's like you said a minute ago, Rob. You got to do everything at some point, right? The way I look at seller agents is you may have to have multiple ones, or one that's speaking to different areas where it's responding to signals. For me, the idea of at TP is removing that layer in the middle, right? It's like a seller agent and a buyer agent communicating directly on the signals, right? Then you're going to have a scenario where you're going through your DSP to the SSP, like that buying and transacting, right? Because no publisher and no agency or advertiser is going to put all their eggs in one basket, like you just
Yeah.
said, right? They're gonna put some budgets across the board, and you got to be able to kind of get those budgets, right? That's the goal, right? You're going fishing, right? So when
Yeah.
you're building or designing, seller agents on the pub level, I'm partial because of, where I work and what I do, that I think an OMS is a perfect spot because that's where products live, pricing, that's where your direct business lives, that's where your programmatic information should be, right? So you can control what products you release, what pricing you release, and have that be kind of the center or not. Or if it's a direct access, you kind of still have to build that logic in, right? Because
Yeah.
I like the idea of AI and AI understanding things and informing you, but I don't like the idea of AI making decisions on my budgets, on my optimizations, or going in and making changes without,
Yeah.
my idea. Because one of the things I don't think will ever change is sometimes the mechanics of a deal don't live in technology, or will never live in technology, right? So you want these transactions to happen at a certain point and then have some validation, have some control. So that's why, the way I see it happening is most publishers may choose one lane to test it. Maybe that's at CP route where it's agent to agent with some optionality, or they're going to partner with, their platform and try to get it for cheaper and test it that way. But this is just a new way of buying, right? And
Do you think,
it's
Yeah.
going to have
yeah,
both flavors.
like, because that's also like, there's a lot of publishers that don't have order management
Yeah,
systems.
yeah. Mhm.
I'm sure you would love to speak with them, but
Yeah.
or your sales department would, for the, for them though, right? So I do love that. The OMS is a great place. There's so much information there and it makes sense to send them out because that's where your salespeople go. They don't even go into the ad server. They just live in the OMS. If you don't though, is
Mhm.
it conceptually then like a, a publisher should think about contracting a seller agent or building one or what it is as a version of an OMS and have to go through a bunch of the same thought exercises of packaging and pricing and
Yeah. Well,
information building?
I think the beauty and one of the benefits of using automation and AI for this is maybe it can work off of your Excel spreadsheet because you don't have an OMS that you're working off of, right? Where you have kind of the definitions, pull from that, pull from a
Well,
specific template. You know what I mean? Just to know the guardrails, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's not
then
like I'm not saying like where the information lives, but it's the
yeah,
same
yeah, yeah, no, no,
thought process,
right?
right?
It's
Well,
that, right?
that's
You pull from that information, and that's where you get the data, right? From whatever source they're using it, and then you have to build logic in the seller agent, right? Like these sets of products, these sets of audience, these sets of content. I'm going to allow individuals to transact at certain floors and maybe have it send you responses saying this $10 floor should be 8 and you get X amount of increased revenue. And there the agent not only does the transaction, it starts providing the insight you would get or want to get at a limited amount from an OMS or another platform. And then as
which
the business scales, the logical step is to move to the OMS platform, but you'll get some of that kind of business flow and intelligence. We're talking about sales intelligence. A lot of the times you do these automations, it's all about like it's a done deal, but it's what it brings back, not just the transaction or the mechanics of it. It's like what are the bid rates? Why are they bidding? All those things should be possible now.
it comes but one of the pieces to this that we all said, like, again, like, it's early days on AdCP, and again, there's one version of AdCP which is just, it's programmatic plus, it's more shit happening faster. Like, I'm not in for hopefully what that is, but then there is some reimagining of some how this works. But it all comes down to, well, the only way to prepare for either part of that spectrum is, again, getting your house in order, which is like, so to like, I'm putting it to my other comment of fishing and programmatic to see if you can get direct, which is a little bit more um oh shoot, Craig just left because he gave me an image to share here. I won't be able to do it while I'm talking. But there's a if you are a publisher right now, again, you have got to do some real soul searching. Who is your audience? How are you going to get your content in front of them, right? And build a business off of that. And if you're going to do it through advertising, now is the true understanding it, what it is that you are going to deliver.
Mhm.
That process alone, as AdCP and other things come up, have you prepared to walk into that conversation without a blank sheet of paper and going like, what do you do here? To me, I remember when I first AdCP came out, right? And it was like, I asked our publisher community, and like 60% said they want to build it themselves.
Mhm.
My thought is like, build and on and control are probably the two different things
I think
there.
that's the conflation. Yeah.
Right. Like because when I threw it out there and said, like, why would I want an SSP to do it? Someone weighed in on the community. It's like, well, all your SSPs are going to have sales agents. And that's
Yep.
when I was like, oh, that is not what I want. Not unless I'm orchestrating what they're doing. A PubMatic could have a whole different story that it is telling
Yeah.
advertisers that is to my benefit. So I do not want to cut that off. But if I don't think they're doing that, then I don't want it. I want
Yeah.
me, right? I think that's the part of this that I feel like our relationships are really, really going to start to change and evolve on this front. So,
For the last word,
yeah, please.
most of you publishers, don't worry about a seller agent right now. Stay focused on your revenue. Don't pick your head up. If you got a department, research, somebody wants to do it, great. Don't worry about it right now. There will be a mad rush, but be a fast follow in this one. And there is no money there. There is nothing transacting. You will not be ahead of the curve. Not yet. I might
Yeah.
change my mind in 30 days or 60 days about that, but for right now, don't move.
Yep.
All I would add to that, though, is publishers are going to have to have more people on staff that are putting more time thinking about automation and AI and all these pieces. And there is an aspect of being in some of these rooms where these things are being thought through and discussed and whatever. Again, I'm on calls, and I'm sure Scott and you both, sometimes we're the only people representing publishers on calls, and that's not fair to everyone, including the people who are trying to build stuff for us, right?
Mhm.
The bandwidth by which to do so doesn't exist. I'm not trying to like with that, but there is a piece of this of some of us are going to be coming back to you with some really hard questions about how do we see this working, and you have to engage.
Yeah.
Right?
Lean into the shaping of it, but don't worry about building one right now.
Yeah, the shaping of it, right? One of the things that frankly bothers me about AdCP is the notion of not needing expertise in these systems and these tasks and responsibilities. And I think that's way off. I think it's going to be more vital. We're going to have, all these groups wear so many different hats. They're just switching a hat to managing this, to managing automation, AI, agents, orchestration, apps, as you have multiple ones running. Like that is a new hat that everyone's going to wear. It's not like we need less expertise. We're going to need
Right.
more.
The company that got let go of all their customer service people, I think, started hiring them back after realizing that it's much harder to do than that. I think all of this is great. I really appreciate both of your input on this, and it's going to be an ongoing thing because, again, we are going to attack it from multiple ways of just trying to figure out. We hit on a number of points, which I think for many people is going to be very, very useful. And then someone's going to say, well, what about that one part? And we would be able to drill into that on its own call. We have a couple weeks off because we've got San Antonio coming up. I have reached out. We probably will have an ad CP. We'll probably have Brian Kelly joining. We do have a call with pre-bid, Beeler.Tech and pre-bid that will have Brian and a few others on it. Our goal right now is to get the information out there, get these conversations going. If AI is a part of your remit, especially if you're on the publisher side, you should be reaching out to us because we are creating community around that, because I think it's going to be all about knowledge sharing at this point. There's just so much. Nothing's moved faster than AI and its stuff and its impact on us. I know some of you probably listen and go like, the AI bubble will burst and we'll be okay, right? Here's the tsunami. We have beachfront property. If there's one industry that is going to be hit, good or bad, because of AI, it is us. So
it'll be the year of mobile for a decade.
No.
This is happening now.
It'll be the AI of what happened to publishers if people don't start getting their houses in order. So let's have those conversations. Thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend. Take care, everyone.
Ciao.